So our next issue is about religion, also very important as far as culture and development is concerned. So what do we want to know about religion? We want to look at the nature of religion in Africa. In the process, we look at country religious profiles. We want to look at religion and development, especially the concept of fatalism, divine authorship, and so on. And in the next lecture, we'll be looking at specifically at witchcraft. So this lecture will not talk about witchcraft, we'll defer that. So these are the items that you could potentially look at. Works by Opoku, works by Vance Pritchard, works by Goody. If you want chapter 6, my own book on culture and development, and also more material on Sakai that I've put there. It has been said that the African religion is fetishism. That's all fetish. And that Africans themselves are incurably religious. The African is said to be very superstitious. The Ghanaian is said to be fatalistic. And his ways are governed by fatalism. Now, these are based on comments, things that people say, people believe. And while there's some truth in all of this, maybe we should also realize that you cannot always generalize about Africans. We're not all identical in all ways, okay? And just as some Africans may be incurably religious, superstitious, fatalistic, and so on, some people are not. For example, some Africans are even agnostic. They don't believe in God, okay? They don't believe in spirits. They don't believe in life after death. So when you're talking about Africa, it is difficult to generalize. You can generalize, but when you generalize, take with a pinch of salt. Now, I like to look at the power of African religion to do good and bad. So African religion, believe it or not, prescribes the work that you do or don't do. Okay? When you work or relax. What you do with your income or your earnings. What foods or drinks you eat or don't eat. In other words, taboos. How you relate to your neighbor. How you vote at elections, and so on and so forth. And if all this is really true, then religion should be seen as a very powerful force for advancing development as well as holding back development. Now, I look at some of the things the statistics that are available on the net. And I realize that from certain statistical indicators, Gallup International's findings, of the 10 most religious countries in the world, 3 of them are African. And these include Ghana and Nigeria. In fact, Ghana and Nigeria occupy the top spot. At the same time, in that table, no African country features among the 10 topmost atheistic countries. You won't find African countries there. Now, you also find another poll that Ethiopia, Senegal, and Uganda are tops. They top the table of countries that consider religion most important in people's lives. And 7 African countries are among the top 10. Okay? For countries that consider religion very important in life, 7 of the top 10 are African. So you also find that Western European countries, usually described as Christian, do not feature at all in the list of most religious countries. And what I also find interesting is that the poor are often more religious than the rich. I don't know why this is so. Now, looking at traditional religion itself, what are some of the things that we need to know about it? There is the question of supremacy of the Creator God. So most Africans recognize and acknowledge the supremacy of a Creator God. Akans may call him Onyankompong, whereas Onyankompong Kwame or Onyankompong Kweku, Onyankompong. The African God may be seen as distant in some cases or near. The God may be worshipped directly or indirectly. Also, the F is conceptualized as a god or a goddess, as Asiya. The ancestors are deemed to be alive and are venerated and invoked by sacrifice and prayer. And they play a very important life in the life of the community. So what in Africa you find is a pantheon of gods and spirits. And these exist. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Some of them are neutral. Some of them, it depends on how you relate with them. So the spirits that we Africans talk about are supposed to be unseen. We don't see them. But we believe that they have guises, okay? And some can assume human form, okay? Therefore, it is not, we don't believe that every man and woman that we see are persons. We think that there are men and women who are not human beings at all. They are masquerades, okay? And that, for that reason, we are sometimes very careful how we relate to people, especially strangers. The deities, we believe, control the natural forces. Thunder, rain, lightning, chickenpox. These are controlled by gods. For example, the Nigerian god Ogun is the god of iron. Sampona is the god of chickenpox. Okay? And these gods live within the environment, environmental features, like Lake Busunchi, like Lake Tano, the Tano River, the Koli Lagoon. These are gods. Okay? And what about man himself? Man is mortal. He has a body which decays, but he has a spirit and he has a soul. And his death results when the spirit leaves the body. So man also is immortal in a way. And man has a destiny, and that destiny is related to life after death. We believe that there's life after death, and when man dies, he's going to go to the next world. Okay? We believe that the deities play a sanctioning role as far as our behavior is concerned. They can punish, they can also reward. The same also about the African ancestors. They are living dead. They are close to the living. Sometimes they need to be fed like the living. They sanction our ethics and our morality. Okay? So the divinities are not only interested in the social relations, they also check environmental abuses because it is their abode. Their environment is therefore not exploited ruthlessly. We are careful the way we exploit the environment. Okay? So pollution, for example, we don't pollute the environment anyhow. We don't cut down trees anyhow. We don't kill any animals anyhow. Okay? We do not do excavations and diggings anyhow. And all this relates to MDG 7, okay, which is talking about environment. The same also applies to the Sustainable Development Goals. The African traditional religion blames environmental hazards on human activity. So when things are happening which are not expected of the environment, the blame is on human beings. It's because of the bad things that human beings have been doing. This is why things are happening that way. So from that perspective, you can say that traditional African religion supports development. Okay? Now, my next point is to look at religious profiles. Now, if you're looking at the religious profiles of African countries, you find that many of them, they are mostly predominantly religious. That is true. But they also differ. They are rarely mono-religious. Okay? Some countries are predominantly Muslim. For example, if you go to North Africa, most of the countries are Muslim. Also Senegal, about more than 90% of the Senegalese are Muslims. Some are Christian. If you go to Ethiopia, many of them are Christian. Okay? And Christianity goes back a long way, even before the time of Christ. But many of these countries are multi-religious. It's not just one religion, but many. If you take Ghana as an example, you find that 16% of Ghanaians, according to census reports, are in fact Muslims. This is what it says. Some of them are Sunnis, some of them are Sufis, some of them are Ahmadis, and so on. They coexist. If you go to northern Ghana, according to some of the census reports, about 56.1% of the people there are Muslims. Now, many Ghanaians are also Christians. Almost 70% of Ghanaians are Christians. Some of these are Pentecostalists, charismatics. The percentages are there. What about the traditional religion of our ancestors? According to the census reports, it's about 8.5% of Ghanaians who espouse the traditional religion. The percentage goes up in the Upper East, where about 46.4% are followers of the traditional religion. Those people who don't have religion count for about 6.1%. Okay? So what is interesting about many African countries is that many religions exist together. They are mixed. Okay? And if they are mixed, it is right that we should ask whether their coexistence is peaceful or is fraught with conflict. Okay, and these are the table that you see presents the statistics, the 20,000 statistics, the 2010 statistics. So you can see the movement, how changes are taking place, you see. So you can see that Ghanaians are becoming more Christian, okay. Yeah, so Christianity is increasing because Pentecostalists are increasing. As far as the Protestants are concerned, not much change, slight reduction. Catholics are, in fact, Catholicism is becoming, the percentage for Catholicism is declining and so on. Muslims, on the other hand, are getting increasing in number. The traditional religion is declining, okay? So these are the realities that the census report tells us. In other words, Africa, you could say, is a melting pot for our religions. So, but what is interesting is that despite the classification of peoples into Christians, Muslims, traditionalists, and so on and so forth, the people themselves are very eclectic in their religious orientations. For example, a Christian goes to church, all right, but don't be surprised if the same Christian is taking part in ancestral rituals, visits soothsayers, or even goes to see the Malans. The faiths are very much syncretic. Borrowing is an aspect of life. There have been cases where even pastors are borrowing from a traditional priest, okay? Well, that we'll not talk about now, but if you go to Sakai, I've got evidence of that. Some people, of course, are tolerant of doctrinal differences. Some people are not. So some of the religions are in conflict. And you can find this in Nigeria, in Sudan, in Somalia, in Kenya, where the religions are at each other's throats. Boko Haram, for example, Al-Shabaab, all of these are manifestations of religious conflict. Religions failing to live together in peace. But religion is a potential ally for development. And that is so because religion goes with a certain kind of morality. And that morality prescribes honesty, love, charity, hope, diligence, respect for the self, respect for others, respect for nature. So all of this make religion an ally for development. So out of fear of divine sanctions or an expectation of divine reward, immediate or later, people abide by laws, norms, basic morality, and so on and so forth. And this all goes to promote development. That is all good. But people also violate human rights for religious reasons. The killings and the wars are all done in the name of God. And some religious taboos, such as the taboo against farming and fishing on certain days, can be unproductive in some contexts. So religion remains a double-edged sword. Now, in relation to religion, I consider the issue of famanyami, which is a kind of philosophy that you find in many African societies. Famanyami may be an account way of expressing an idea. Okay, it says that despite your moments of doubt, there is the need to ultimately trust in God. You see, and many African proverbs actually support this. It says that God knows best. God will decide, and so on and so forth. And therefore, it is okay to leave it all to God, to God's better judgment. This is what Famanyami says. So this is a religious philosophy which you may say the accounts have, which is best translated as Famanyami, leave it to God. But it's a statement which is pervasive in many African societies. So Famanyami exists in almost every society in Africa. Okay? But what is interesting is that Famanyami orders attitudes and behaviors at critical moments in a people's life. Misfortunes, for example, injustices, disputes, and so on and so forth. So when there's a dispute, misfortune, say, Famanyami. It seems to solve the problem, okay? But Famanyami has its implications. It may mean that controversies, conflicts, grievances, and so on and so forth are settled not by self-help and vengeance, okay? And if you don't decide to take the law into your own hands to sort the other person out because there's a grievance, and you leave everything to God, then what does that do? It makes for peace and order. But it also implies indolence. People become passive, okay, as they depend on providence to protect them or provide for their needs, okay? Maybe God is also busy. Why do you think that God is going to do everything for you? Okay? In another sense, then, it results in exploitation. So, for example, crooks exploit the public in the name of God. That's why pastors are becoming billionaires. Their followers are impoverished. Religion can indeed become an opium of the people. So our religion cuts both ways. This thing about Fama Nyame, if it means that bring everything, all the good things in your house to God, and go and remain in poverty, then it's a problem. So African religion, as we have pointed out, protects the environment. And this is a point that I need not overemphasize. So traditionally, Africans did not exploit the environment ruthlessly. They did not cut down trees anyhow. They didn't kill animals anyhow. They didn't pick rocks and remove them anyhow. And all that because the environment is supposed to be the abode of the gods and the spirits. So therefore, you don't play with it. You be careful. And we can see this happening. This can be illustrated, even in this country, from some of the media comments. For example, in 2011, it was reported that the chiefs and fetish priests, fetish priests, that is how they wrote it, of the Achim state in the eastern region and its environments, have performed necessary rituals to appease River Brim God. Okay? The river is believed to have been angry with the youth in town who were engaging in illegal mining or galamsey activities and therefore polluting the water. Okay? So because pollution, the water is being polluted, floods were happening, it was said that the gods were angry. Okay? So concern for river pollution by miners and galamsey people, as the Brim case is, shows us how religion can come into play. Okay? Because of the people's religious beliefs, now they are going to move against the galamsey and the miners because they see it as a religious issue. The gods are angry. Therefore, the priests, the religious, for religious reasons, the priests, the chiefs, become allies of those who seek to protect the environment. Okay? African rivers are believed to be gods and visit calamities and on communities that do not protect the rivers. And the same can also be said for other forms of environmental degradation. So the outcome is that rivers, of course, we do know that galamsey causes a lot of harm to the environment. Rivers become silted, and that can lead to floods, which is a fact. Okay? You don't need science to tell you that. Okay? High concentration of dangerous chemicals can pollute, such as mercury, can destroy water bodies. It can destroy your drinking source of water and make it infected. It can kill aquatic life in the rivers. It can cause illness when people consume all this. So if under the rubric of religion, the environment is being protected, then that is good. Okay? As the elders try to appease River Brim, it follows that they would also act to persuade the youth or compel the youth to stop their galamsey activity. So thus, directly or indirectly, African religion comes to the rescue of the environment. If villagers would not listen to science, they will certainly listen to the gods. So that is wonderful. If science fails, religion comes to the rescue. So thanks.